It's really very impressed with the speakers and the content. Great conference. Congratulations so far.
That's good to hear. So your day has been great. Oscar, let's have a nice chat. Let's talk about like topics that are going on out there, and let's also do a few funny and fast questions. I've got a cheeky one in mind that I'm going to pop up in the end. But first of all, I mean, you've been working for Silicon Valley Bank for such a long time. And I think speaking about Silicon Valley Bank, we always think about venture debt. Could you maybe share us what else Silicon Valley Bank has to offer?
Yeah, so Anna, look, we're very fortunate. We've been in the business now for almost 40 years on a global basis. We bank the majority of venture capital firms and the vast majority of startup companies globally and in the US. And I think that allows us to be not just a provider of debt financing, but really just like Project A, being at the center of the ecosystem, being an enabler through the network, through introductions. You know, we love lending money to early stage companies, growth stage companies, M&A transactions, and all of the above. But what we really, our goal really is to help entrepreneurs succeed, just like yours is. And so even if we don't end up lending money, which we love to do, if we can help entrepreneurs through our network, through introductions to VCs like yourselves, to other entrepreneurs, that's what really drives us and results in the ecosystem growing and in entrepreneurs becoming successful.
That makes a lot of sense. That's really interesting, Oscar. The entrepreneurs, I bet, have not had such a calm year this year, right? How would you say, by and large, the entrepreneurs out there manage their situation and their businesses?
Well, great question. I'll tell you, this year has been an MBA course for entrepreneurs because, you know, around March the 15th, they had to start and change their entire way they operated their sales models, their employment models, you know, their approach to the customer. And the one thing I think what this year taught to entrepreneurs, and I know it's a lesson which you, the partners of Project A, also were teaching, was you had to move fast. Yeah. In March, you had to move really fast. To pivot, to change the way that you reached out to customers, to control and reduce your costs, to extend your liquidity. And when you think of it, Anna, that was all compressed really into 6 to 8 weeks. You had to really reposition yourself. And I think in a way, that actually benefits the ecosystem because we now have a group of entrepreneurs who in many ways are much, much more experienced through good or bad, as to how to react and pivot and change with market environments.
A bit of a stress test, wasn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And continues.
Yeah, true. Let's see what happens. And how do you believe the year would have been without COVID? Any thoughts on that?
Well, you know, when COVID began to rear its ugly head in February, late February, early March. In a way, I was saying then it was a good cooling off period because things were getting so overheated and so, you know, so rapid before COVID. Obviously, it slowed things down in March and April, but I think as we've all seen, and this is the phenomena, the market has come back remarkably strongly. I mean, I think if you ask most of the delegates, you know, listening today, if you asked them in March, would the market look as it is today? Everybody would have said no. And yet the amount of capital that's out there, the amount of entrepreneurial energy and startups, it's quite incredible. Had COVID not happened, would there have been a few more VC funds and PE funds raising funds this year? Maybe, because obviously fundraising for VCs was interrupted. International LPs went away. So I think fundraising would have been a little bit higher. And I think maybe some of the larger rounds, although, today, again, we saw Get Your Guide getting funded significantly. I think we would have seen a few more larger rounds. So I think those are the differences that we would have seen. Larger rounds and some VCs raising some funds this year as opposed to probably next year.
That's a very interesting point, actually. Speaking about rapid and VCs coming up or raising, since some industries such as fintech and digital health are in fact accelerated by COVID, do you reckon that there will be more fintech or digital health specific VCs coming up now in future, more than initially planned, because these industries got more momentum?
Well, let me tell you the story, Anna. So I've been in Frankfurt now for almost 3 years. And I go to my local delicatessen store, which at the beginning did not take credit cards. It was only cash. Mm-hmm. Today, they won't take cash.
Yeah.
And that's happened in 6 months. And so when you look at and that's a very good development, I think, for Germany, because Germany was a little bit behind the curve.
Especially Berlin, right?
And so that's a great example. So I think I've read various reports that the fintech industry has been accelerated by at least 2 to 3 years. So we're almost where we are today would have taken a couple of years to get to. And my local delicatessen store is an excellent example of that from that perspective.
I bet you're going there with that cheeky blue car, right?
Yes, exactly. And then look, digital health. I mean, you guys know only too well. With your investment, your great investments. Digital health is here to stay. It's transformed the way that we're going to interact with our doctors and health practitioners. And again, it's accelerated the adoption of video interaction with health professionals has also accelerated hugely. So these things have had a positive impact on the evolution of certain key industries, as you say.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, the other day I read in the news, I bet like everybody did, that Google maybe should be broken up now. Do you have any thoughts on that? I know I'm diving down a new path, but this topic is super interesting, and I know you have an opinion on this.
Yeah. And I will hasten to say that this is my opinion as opposed to Silicon Valley Bank's opinion. So
okay, yeah.
Look, it is it's history repeating itself, obviously, when you look at the history of big companies being broken up, etc. Look, there's no doubt, Anna, that if we were to start the internet today, knowing what we've learned over the past 25 years, we would start it a different way.
Yeah.
And the whole notion that, individuals, we give our data and private information for free would be different today. Yeah. The way that the internet has evolved has allowed huge companies to obviously evolve and dominate, just as they had done in past industries. The key question is the consumer, is the user being hurt by this? Because ultimately, in the US, antitrust laws are
I can't hear you right now. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, are you back?
I'm back. You are too.
Back? Yeah. So ultimately the question is the consumer being hurt? I don't think they are. And look, at the end of the day, Anna, and this is so true, it is the market will determine who the winners and losers are. And let us look back in history. 10 years ago, people were really wondering whether, Microsoft had a future. You look back at Nokia, you look back at any of these technology companies who were hugely dominant, who at that time you said, no way can they fail. And so at the end of the day, no, I don't think Google should be broken up. I don't think it's damaging for consumer, and I think let market competition continue to thrive. And I think that's the key thing, that regulators have to make sure that competition, and that's driven by investors like yourselves, and Silicon Valley Bank, but competition continues to grow around these companies, thereby giving consumers more choice.
Yeah. Nice thought on this. Really interesting. I mean, tech is really the winner of Corona right now. And in the end, you can't stop it, right? Looking at all the indices out there, whether it's MSCI World, the Dow Jones, or S&P 500, it's always the top tech stocks that are really highly weighted in these indexes and really create the value, especially in the past years. This will probably continue. Where the valuations are going to be, who's going to be the stronger one in the next 5 years, nobody really knows, but it's definitely going to stay exciting.
Yeah.
And now, Oscar, to the audience, if there are any questions, please feel free to shoot. I'm going to try my best to catch them and share them here. Otherwise, Oscar, let's move on a little bit more to the funner or more casual questions. So I would actually be interested. Would you rather like to be stuck in a bikini or have your savings stuck in Wirecard?
The former.
Let's now all imagine Oscar in a bikini, please.
The bikini. I'll go and change right now.
That's amazing. So your answer was?
Bikini.
Nice. Okay, Oscar. What about invisible or the ability to fly?
Oh, the ability to... that's a nice one. That's a nice one. No, you know what? Probably invisible. You're absolutely right. Invisible.
Ah, you're one of those spy people.
Exactly. I'm
scared now. So I bet earlier when you came a little bit late, you were hiding already somewhere here.
Exactly.
Oscar. What about coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee every time. Even though I'm English by background, coffee every time. And my coffee consumption during COVID has risen to 35-40%.
Oh my God. So what's another COVID habit you developed apart from drinking much coffee?
Drinking alcohol.
Oh, so is it red wine or white wine or beer or what is it? Tequila?
It's seasonal. So now it's red wine. In the summer, it's white wine. And with a heavier meal, it's German beer, Weiss beer.
Great answers. Unfortunately, there's lockdown now. Otherwise, I would have said we have to grab a red wine soon. And Oscar, if you could do, this is one of my favorite questions. I bet some friends that are watching are going to smile now because I always ask that in big rounds. If you could do any job in the world, no matter if you'd be earning money or if you have the talent or what other people think, what would it be?
Yeah, I'd love to be in a marketing, in a advertising company. I'm not creative enough to be a creative director, but I love the creative aspects of marketing and sales. That's why I've been listening to a lot of these sessions today on marketing. And I would love to have been the relationship manager between the client and the creative side of the house, able to try and connect the two, what needs to be created. I wasn't a huge fan of Mad Men, the TV series.
I was about to ask.
I knew you were, so that's why I preempted. But along those lines, and I've always thought of that because I've wanted to be creative, but I'm not creative enough. So and that's why I love working for Silicon Valley Bank, working with entrepreneurs who are creative. So I would have been in advertising close to that creative side of the house.
And which agency do you find particularly interesting?
Well, for many years, I got to know Sir Martin Sorrell a little bit, who ran WPP in the UK, which is now part of Omnicom, one of the largest ones. He was quite an outspoken CEO, and for good and bad reasons, but it produced some of the great adverts of the world from that perspective.
What a nice answer. Oscar, we've only got 8 seconds left. It was, as always, so nice to chat to you. And one day I would love to see your creative side somewhere in action. I bet you were a bit humble here. See you soon.
Anna, thank you so much. Good
luck.
Thanks, everybody.